Sugar workers have been the backbone of Guyana's development. From enslavement to indentureship to an independent Guyana, men and women have toiled in sun and rain on sugar estates, contributing heavily to the current day economic prospects of Guyana.
And so, in many respects, sugar has been at the heart and soul of the very existence of Guyana. Entire communities were built around sugar.
Realizing the economic benefits of the sugar industry to Guyana, the government has been adamant in the preservation of sugar production. President Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali vowed to take proper care of the severed sugar workers whose families were shattered, and he has done just that. Hundreds of sugar workers who lost their jobs when the former government closed the estates and contracted others are now singing in jubilation, having received $250,000 in a one-off disbursement to cushion them, the same way government has done in the last few months for citizens across the board. And government was strategic in releasing the money during the Christmas holidays. Over $1.3 billion has been distributed to these persons. The beneficiaries of the $250,000 are already planning to prudently utilize the money.
Well, I'm going to get a nice Christmas. My children are going to get a nice Christmas. For the last 3 years, they didn't have a nice Christmas because they didn't have no job. So right now, I'm going to take it and I'm going to give them a nice Christmas, but I'm going to still put up some.
I would like to thank the president for taking this great opportunity to give the sugar workers this benefit. To me, it will help me and my family because in these hard times that, cost of living is going up, goods are very high, and this will help me and my family because I have one boy, one girl.
So I change the check and go buy something and look after now something properly. Feel nice about the little money and thing.
This money going towards the family. Towards the family, boy, because I've been down a long time.
It was a great feeling this morning to receive a check because of the redundancy was made to us in 2018. I worked with Gaisuku prior to 2018 for 29 years.
The promise of government to provide employment for Guyanese in the sugar sector has also become a reality.
The decision to close the sugar industry, the decision to padlock the gates of sugar factories throughout the length and breadth of Guyana, that decision that was made by the APNU AFC government shortly after they came into office, was one of the most callous, cruel, and unconscionable decisions made by any government in the history of this country.
Government has taken a proactive approach to re-employ over 1,200 persons at Skeldon, Rose Hall, and East Demerara sugar estates. And they will also benefit from a 7% salary increase as given to all public servants in Guyana. But government is not done yet. Employment in the sugar sector will increase rapidly in 2022.
Management are looking at to employ more people, more persons. They have put out notices, and there are a number of persons who are going to the estate to submit their names for re-employment. And of course, those workers are workers who would have lost their jobs and who jobs would have terminated.
A huge part of the promised 50,000 jobs will be fulfilled when the estates are 100% operable.
Well, these estates will create about 7,000 jobs, right? 7,000 jobs, and it's capable of creating more jobs in the future with the expansion.
The Guyana Sugar Corporation, GAISUCO, will need acute nurturing and attention. Government has already committed to go at lengths to ensure there is optimum activities on the estates, improve production, and increase employment.
GAISUCO must be diversified. So we cannot continue to produce raw brown sugar for GAISUCO to survive. We have to look at value-added products. So when we start to diversify GAISUCO, there will be more job creation. For example, ethanol production. We're talking about refined sugar. We're talking about molasses, high-grade molasses. We're talking about alcohol. So these are the things, the diversification we're talking about, which will create more jobs beyond that 7,000 that I talked about just now.
The Guyana Agricultural and the General Workers Union also supports a diversification.
In 2017, when APNU AFC had been talking about the closures, I presented to them a document outlining the diversification options. And we believe in that because sugar by itself, cannot be a standalone product. Sugar has to be based on an industry that is a sugarcane industry, meaning that you must use all the byproducts of the sugarcane to have additional revenue.
Narain also juxtaposed the Guyana to Cuba, citing there is much to learn from the profitable sugar sector in the Spanish-speaking country.
In fact, the Cuban industry produces 19 products from the sugarcane in the process of manufacturing sugar. We don't want them to do all of that, but things like the better utilization of your molasses. You could make ethanol, you could make alcohol for medical use, and there is a market for it. If you go to the barbershop, which you do go, you will find the alcohol that they will spray you with is imported from Canada or Mexico. This is just an example, so many more. And then things like your cogeneration, electricity, that's very, very profitable. And here it is, you are using the bagasse, which is the waste, after you would have produced your sugar and your molasses. And you create fuel. There are some simple things that GAISUCO could embark upon to ensure that there is value added. Even the packaged sugar, rather than selling bags.
While diversification is a long-term goal, sugar workers are happy the short-term goal was achieved. The reopening of sugar estates and the provision of a source of income to thousands of families was government's primary focus. The sugar workers have testified of a better life today.
It was very frustrating at times because when I got laid off, I take some time before I could get a job, and actually myself I had to maintain my household.
The reopening of the estates is one part in the massive plan government has for the sugar industry. Government has also promised that sugar workers will not be segregated or treated differently from any other sector of workers.
GAISUCO and sugar is too important to fail in our country. We have to continue to work with the sugar. We have to continue to improve sugar. We have to continue to diversify. We have to bring down the cost of production.
Government has also vowed to preserve the sugar company.
The workers must rest assured that GAISUCO is here to stay.
Direct government subvention will continue to be given to the Sugar Corporation until such time that it is financially able to stand on its own.
Well, first of all, yes, we have to continue to invest in GAISUCO, as I said. GAISUCO is very important. This year we have set aside $3 billion in the first instance, and then $2 billion more additionally. Gaisuco is working with that. Hopefully Gaisuco also can get their revenue coming in the country. But if it is necessary to give Gaisuco more revenue, more subvention, then we'll have to do it to ensure that we put Gaisuco on a proper footing.
Gaisuco is still the single largest employer in the country, and the industry must be viewed with a socio-economic lens and not solely from a financial perspective.
When you look at the motor industry in the United States, the largest employer, the United States government always gives subsidies to these industries because these industries create jobs for people, the largest employers of people in the country. Like Gaisuco in Guyana, Gaisuco is producing sugar. Sugar is very important commodities in our country. At the same time, Gaisuco is the largest single employer of people in our country. And Gaisuco have been playing different role. I just mentioned sugar production is the primary activity of Gaisuco, but then you have other services I just mentioned about. And then we are looking at diversification, where we want to bring value-added product into Gaisuco. So these are the things we want to ensure Gaisuco do in the future. That is why we have to continue to invest in Gaisuco. So if Gaisuco shortfall in revenue, then we have to ensure that we put aside revenue to subsidize Gaisuco.
Also, with government's key vision to create and sustain jobs across the sugar belt, a number of investors are engaged in Guyana to form a public-private partnership to catapult Gaisuco.
I'm very heartening to know that there are private investors who are very interested in coming to invest in Gaisuco. So as long as we have PPP partnership, public-private partnership, then Gaisuco can be a force to reckon with to create more jobs for people within the country.
We know Dr. Irfan before he was president, and he is truly a worker's person. And the Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Zulfikar, he had been the Assistant General Secretary of GAO at one time. And he had worked with me, and I know him very well. He is a hard-working comrade. He is down to earth, and he's an honest man. And once he put his mind on something, it will be done, I know that.
The union is also assured with the reopening of the estates and the work needed to make the sector profitable, more jobs will be available.
Knowing sugar itself, once you would have started to replant, and then the activities that go along with that requires you to have a substantial workforce. So once the estates would have started out back to replant, clean up, then you reach the stage of harvesting. You know, the operations of an estate itself requires a substantial amount of labor force. So the fact that they have started, and the fact that the government has already approved in the 2020 budget, the emergency budget, $5 billion for Gaisuco, you know, is demonstrating the commitment. It's not only saying that we will do this. Here it is, we will do it. We approve money for it, and we have started. The evidence speaks loud and clear. And, you know, one has to be confident about that, the fact that it has started.
The resurrection of the sugar industry ensures Guyana is further away from being susceptible to economic shocks by the fluctuation of oil prices. With oil being extracted in commercial quantities, many countries and oil and gas experts have been warning Guyana to diversify its economy and not solely depend on the revenues accrued in the oil and gas sector. The sugar sector will continue to rake in foreign currency, critical to Guyana's purchasing power. Sugar is just one of the many industries government will be creating employment. The construction, ICT, tourism and mining sectors among a plethora of others, will see massive employment to fulfill government's promise of 50,000 jobs in 5 years.